What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and it's time for Upset Alert Week 10. Last week on our Upset Alert video, there were really only a couple of big upsets, and we had the Virginia-North Carolina game on our video, but we did not have the Michigan State-Michigan game. And based off of the first games in the Big Ten, you really just didn't see that one coming, and should have probably had it on there. Rivalry game. You never know what's going to happen, and just the unknown with both teams after just one game. You really just don't know the whole story after one game, like I keep saying. So I missed that one. But what we do here is we try to find 8 games. We pick 8 games that are most likely to be upsets. Not saying that they're all going to happen, but just looking for the games that have the biggest chance of being an upset. And to be an upset, the spread has to be 4 points or more. So last week, like Oklahoma State, Texas, the spread for that game was so low that we couldn't include it on the video. That really wasn't a big enough upset to be considered an upset with this criteria. And also, if you look at this week, that's an issue with some of the games that I would like to put on here, like Florida, Georgia. I think the spread was 3.5, so we can't put that game on here. It's just not a big enough spread to be an upset. Although I thought Georgia was a little bit more of a favorite early in the week. I think that maybe came down a little bit. And then Michigan, Indiana, another game that I could see potentially being an upset, but the spread for that one's been around a field goal, so it can't be included either. So we have to ignore those 2 games and then look ahead to 8 games that have the potential, again, to be big upsets in Week 10. So we start with a Friday night game. How about this one? Miami and NC State. Miami's a team that people have kind of forgotten about. They haven't had a big game. They'll have a big stage here on a Friday night on the road at NC State. The game will be on ESPN. NC State's kind of been up and down this year, a little bit inconsistent. They've had some nice wins. They've had some bad losses. So I really don't know what to expect from NC State in this game. They're going to have to play a great game to have a chance to win it. But we see it all the time. These Thursday, Friday night games, how many times do we see it? There are upsets. And NC State is at home. And so a lot of things do point in their direction to where they could pull off this upset. I think you definitely have to include this game on here. Miami, I think, is the better team. If they bring their A game, they should win, but you never know. How about Liberty and Virginia Tech at noon Eastern time on the ACC network? Virginia Tech favored by 14.5 in this game. If a couple of weeks ago, I would have thought that Virginia Tech would probably take care of business, but now all of a sudden they're struggling a little bit, and Liberty just keeps on winning. I know they haven't played a great team yet, but I'm surprised, honestly, that the spread is 14.5. I would say that Virginia Tech should be favored in this game, but I would have thought it would be more like a touchdown game, 7 or 8 points. Virginia Tech, pretty big favorites at home against a very good Liberty team, an explosive offense. This is going to be a fun one to watch, and I think it will be close. I'm not saying Liberty will pull off this upset, but I do at least think this game will be closer than that 14.5. How about this game? Michigan State and Iowa, noon Eastern time on ESPN. Iowa favored by 7, despite the fact that they're 0-2 and the fact that Michigan State just beat Michigan. So this is a little bit of a head scratcher as well. Not that necessarily that Iowa is favored, but by a whole touchdown. It's definitely an interesting line there. Iowa has really just not played very well. They played okay in their first 2 games. They haven't played terrible. It's not like they've gone out and just gave the games away to the other teams. They just haven't played good enough. The offense really just not doing enough right now. And Michigan State looked really good against Michigan, so if they can repeat that performance, I think there's potential for them to get this win on the road. Obviously, no real crowds in the Big Ten, so it's not going to be tough environment or anything like that. If this was a normal season, I'd probably think that Iowa would be favored by 7 here, but with no real home field advantage, I'm really surprised this spread is even more than a field goal, that we can even use this game, but we can, so I think you have to watch out for that one as well. Arizona State and USC, also at noon Eastern time on Fox, so there are a lot of things here that make you think that Arizona State might be able to pull off an upset. I think USC is the better team. I picked USC to win the Pac-12. I think this is a really good football team. They're favored by 10.5 points. But again, the time. Look at the time of this game. Noon Eastern time. This is a 9 a.m. kickoff for USC. 9 a.m. Think about that. Now, that's crazy to see a West Coast game this early in the day. So that could make things a little bit interesting. Also, it's the first game for both teams. We've seen across college football, week 1, the first game for these teams, sometimes teams don't play their best. There are some sloppy plays, and a lot of different things can happen there. And just the fact that Arizona State has done it before. Herm Edwards last year took this Arizona State team and got a couple of upsets. So, yeah, I think there's a possibility that we see an upset here for sure. And I think really with all of these games in the Pac-12, we just don't know what to expect. It's going to be really interesting. So how about this one? West Virginia at Texas, noon Eastern time on ABC. Texas favored by 6.5. So Texas is coming off a huge win over Oklahoma State. Maybe a game that saved their season that will get them back into the race in the Big 12. West Virginia is also coming off a big win, and they beat Kansas State convincingly. This is a team that, to me, is just kind of getting better and better and better. They're borderline top 25, and I think if they win this game, they probably will be in the top 25. Texas has been so inconsistent this year. You could potentially be looking at an upset here. I like Texas to win it, but I do think the game will be close, and a couple of turnovers could make the difference, could get West Virginia a big upset. Staying in the Big 12, we've got Oklahoma State at Kansas State, 4 o'clock Eastern time. This game is on Fox. Oklahoma State's favored by 12. They're coming off a difficult loss against Texas. Also, Kansas State coming off a loss. It's interesting that the two teams we just showed you are the teams that just beat these two teams. Kansas State has really been up and down this year. We've seen them look great at times. We've seen them look terrible at times. So I just really have no idea what to expect with Kansas State. Oklahoma State has been pretty consistent. They play good defense. I would think Oklahoma State would be able to take care of business, but playing on the road, pretty tough place to play. You never know what might happen here. I think we need to take a look at this game as well. Texas A&M and South Carolina at 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. A&M favored by 10 points. Everyone's kind of propping this Texas A&M team up there, saying maybe they can make the college football playoff, myself included, but still, you might be starting to hear that noise a little bit and start to look at the schedule and say, hey, we can win the rest of these games. Well, don't overlook South Carolina. South Carolina is another team that has been very inconsistent this year. We saw them beat Auburn. We saw them look terrible against LSU. That tells you that you can't use the transit properties to compare these teams, because if that was the case, then LSU should have destroyed Auburn, but it was the other way around. So it's just it's crazy this year, and I just don't know what's going to happen here. It's a pretty tough place to play. South Carolina has had a pretty good home crowd this year in the games that I've seen, and they play good defense. They'll probably keep the game fairly close. A&M coming off of another big win. Do they have a little bit of a letdown? I just don't know. This game is interesting to me, and I think it could potentially be close. And, in a one-possession game, a turnover, a big penalty, something like that can completely change a game. And then we finish things up here with Clemson at Notre Dame, 7:30 Eastern time on NBC. Clemson favored by 5, despite the fact that they don't have Trevor Lawrence. James Skalski out at linebacker for them, their leader on defense. We saw them struggle against Boston College. I still think Clemson should be favored here, even on the road. I mean, a lot of things going against Clemson. I kind of think that's why they will win this game, just because everything seems to be going against them. I think they'll bounce back and play really, really well in this game. But there is absolutely potential for Notre Dame to pull off an upset. You've got a veteran quarterback playing at home, really good defense. A lot of things to like about this Notre Dame team. I think it's really more about Clemson and how well they play in this game. If Clemson brings their A-plus game, I think they win this game. If they bring their B game, this game is going to be down to the wire. And if they bring their C game, I think Notre Dame wins this game. If Clemson plays the way they played in the first half against Boston College in this game, especially defensively, I think Notre Dame will win this game. So it's definitely one to look at. I, again, like Clemson to win it. I think they get this win. So when you look at these upset alert games this week, I really don't know where the upsets are going to come from. And maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe there's an upset that we didn't even mention. I would love to get your thoughts on this. Where do you think we might see a potential upset in Week 10? Is it maybe one of these games? Maybe it's another game. Maybe we just don't really see any upsets this week. It's a huge weekend. So many big games. Probably the best weekend. I would say it's the best weekend of college football we've had so far this season. And the Pac-12 is coming back. So, yeah, there's a lot to like in college football this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. And really tonight, Wednesday night, we have games in the MAC. If you like MAC football, you're going to enjoy those. It's going to be a great week. Starting tonight, we got games Thursday, games Friday, and then, of course, a full, huge slate of games on Saturday. But these are the games that I think we could see an upset in. And, again, I would like to know, what do you guys think? Do you think one of these games will be an upset, or maybe there's an upset somewhere else? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.